Welcome to Hyperspace Prospector. I'll be discussing Eyes Like Stars by Ashley Poston. Apologies if I pronounced that incorrectly. This is basically a YA romance novel, and it is just really lovely. If you're looking for a relaxing Star Wars novel where there is just enough jeopardy to keep things interesting, this is the right book. It's kind of a sit on the couch with your hot chocolate and your blanket, that kind of book. It's set about 30 years after Return of the Jedi, a little bit before The Force Awakens. I was immediately obsessed with this book because the main POV character, Ardent Quay, comes from a long line of, you guessed it, hyperspace prospectors. Yeah, the literal name of this channel. I did not know that going into reading this. I actually saw a note by the author on Threads recommending it, and I was like, cool, new Star Wars book. Had no clue it was about hyperspace prospecting. Basically, Ardent is an esehembo, a wayfinder, whatever you want to call it. Astrogating, as they call it in this book a lot. Basically, a slightly older version of Sherry, or a younger version of Vanya, however you want to look at it. Somewhere in between Sherry and Vanya. To be clear, not every Force-sensitive being can do astrogating. Even Lord Vader, who was probably one of the most powerful people with the Force, had to be taught how to do it. It does seem to kind of run in families. Obviously, in the Chiss Ascendancy, they lose their abilities when they get older, usually. So it's like a really uber-specific Force ability. In addition, the premise of this book is so much fun. We're basically on a history cruise of the galaxy, and the passengers range from Civil War buffs. Yes, they do Civil War reenacting in the Star Wars universe, which always cracks me up. And some retired folks that you would normally find on a cruise. Plus, they mentioned a bachelorette party. There's also a very well-known character who has a cameo as a passenger. I won't spoil the surprise for you there. It's basically set up like a typical Disney cruise in a way. It even has trivia hour, which I couldn't help but make a skit about. That's a separate video. Who's based on the passengers referenced in this book and what that trivia night might actually look like on the ship. I might have to do more Starfarer event videos. It just seems so fun to me. Like, sign me up. I would totally go on one of these tours. Their main nemesis, this is very serious, the Chandrilla Star Line. This book gets scary. There were a lot of other fun Easter eggs going on. For example, they called the entirety of the very huge deal that was Bloodline some overblown scandal. I'm sorry, I don't know why I found it so funny, but like, I love Bloodline, and that was not overblown. I highly doubt General Organa would agree with that sentiment. Back to this book. It's so beautiful. Look at this cover. Absolutely gorgeous. Also, inside, there are basically Chiss illustrations turned sideways, which is the reason why I know there's like one person out there who got the reference. In my skit video on trivia, I took my Ascendancy pin and turned it sideways. Pretty subtle. It's so Chiss. I know the Whovians out there are also like, and Gallifreyan. I apologize for the level of nerd this is about to be, but the font used in this book is unique to Star Wars books. The line spacing is really wide. I mean, I was reading this like, what is this font? I'm not in a bad way. It's just, it's very different from the typical Star Wars novel font. I'd really like to hear what the graphic designer had to say on their font choice here. I loved all the characters in this book. Some of them, it was more, I love to hate the characters in this book. They were really well written villains. Every single one of them, I was like, I want to take them home and become best friends or fight them, depending, of course, on who they are. Ardent's father, he's the ship's captain, Hennisfred Quay. Interestingly, he took his wife's name. That was slightly confusing at first because I'm like, wait, her mother was Quay, her family is Quay. Why did he take his wife's name? And I like that that's kind of done quite commonly from what we can tell in the Star Wars universe. I love that he's bi. Like, that's super awesome. He does kind of end up with a boyfriend at the end, which was really cute. However, he kind of triggered some stuff with my father being similar with not so pleasant flashbacks. I am so sorry. He was in my love to hate bucket. Just because of my own relationship with my father. Probably a lot of people will be like, oh, he's so great. I've been on the receiving end of that. I love the queer representation, though. All right, Arden's best friend is Koti, who's a Twi'lek on the ship. I really wish we had more of her. She was fascinating. But what little we did get was a lot of fun. This is a romance novel, right? So, who we got? That would be a wild space bad boy with a heart of gold. One of the fun things about reading books and not hearing any names spoken aloud is, who knows if this is the correct pronunciation? Xian. He's just the right combination of, ooh, he's a little bit dangerous, but also, I feel completely safe around him. Which is exactly what you want for your YA protagonists. Also, pretty sure he's a Disney princess because he has beautiful hair, magical powers, and an animal companion who's super cute and follows him everywhere. Disney, make Nula plushies for us. One of the things I appreciate is that apparently media literacy has been very poor lately, to the point where I'm trying to explain that the First Order are fascists, and some of the fans are like, no, they're not. The characters in this book openly simply call the First Order fascists. No beating around the bush, no sci-fi language, fascists. Thank you. My favorite new characters introduced were, completely unsurprisingly, the droids, especially VB-35. That droid had me in tears, not once, but twice. Not gonna say why. Again, spoilers. What I got most excited for, though, is Lady Sasha showed up. We even got an Operation Cinder reference. But yeah, I love our lesbian queen. It's not all sunshine and rainbows, though, because the First Order is starting to make themselves known in lesser space. Part of which is via propaganda. For example, that Leia just stood there and watched while Alderaan was destroyed. Like, sure, she could have fought her way through, what, 1 million people on the Death Star? Past Lord Vader, who could take down basically anyone? The Emperor's primary enforcer? But that's how propaganda works. That is why it is so important to sit and think about ideas and think things through yourself. I thought that the level of detail was very well balanced as well. It didn't get to be too much. Some Star Wars books, they almost become dry to read because they're trying to be so perfectly detailed the whole time. And it's like, oh, this is great information. I'm jotting this down in my Excel spreadsheet, but also not really fun to read. It's not perfect. There are a lot of romance novel cliches, like the one that always gets me is people biting their cheek when they're upset. Who bites their cheek? I'm so sorry. I read this in many YA books, and I'm like, what is with the cheek biting? I have questions. This is very much a story about the characters and their relationships. So this is right up your alley if you are interested in Star Wars and learning about people and learning about the universe in a really beautifully written book overall. But if you just want epic space battles and plot, nah. This is also a really easy, smooth reading experience. I got through it in 2 days without putting any extra reading time in. That may say more about my nerdy reading time than the length of the book, but you get the idea. It's not a slog. You're not going to be, okay, I read a chapter. I need recovery time. This is very much sit down, read it, one sitting potentially kind of a book. There is one thing I realized a few days after finishing it because I was like, oh, that was a really sweet ending. Oh. They joined the resistance, and the resistance, they were wiped out. So that means everybody here potentially died in The Last Jedi. Resistance Reborn talks about how all the leadership was either gone or in labor camps and imprisoned. My headcanon, in order to survive this, is that like the Colossus, Starfarer was far away, escaped, and is on the run. For this encapsulated story, however, you can relax, okay? Happy ending, somewhat bittersweet. I won't explain why, but mostly you're safe reading this. It's not another doom and gloom novel where you finish it going, Stellan! You know which novel I mean. That's the overview. Basically, I recommend this book, especially if you need a break and something relatively happy going on. As always in these reviews, here's a couple of quotes that I thought were particularly memorable. This is about the destruction of Alderaan. The Empire hated warmth, hated a place that felt so viscerally like home. Yeah. One of the biggest ways that we can fight fascism is whimsy. I'm not kidding. Hestia can fight fascism. So next time you're exhausted, you've been to one protest after another, and you just want to sit down and have a cup of tea, that is also fighting fascism. Xian at one point talks about how evil is often the easier choice. Nice is different than good. You're so nice. You're not good, you're not bad, you're just nice. I'm not good, I'm not nice, I'm just right. I'm the witch. Sorry. Was I the only one who started singing that when you read that line? You know it, Into the Woods fans. There were several "they said the thing" references, especially when they get to Tatooine and the sand. It gets everywhere.
It's coarse and rough and irritating, and it gets everywhere.
There's also a couple of Star Tours references in there. You'll know them when you see them. There was a fascinating conversation between Ardent and Xian at one point. Empathy doesn't bring people back. And she responds, no. But without it, we lose them entirely. And I would also postulate you'll lose more people if you don't have empathy. They're really discussing memorializing sacred grave sites and artifacts, mostly with regards to Alderaan. But as someone who works with sacred places of death, and I am a death witch, I help clean cemeteries and things like that. It's very important to me that these places are honored. And so it was a fascinating conversation to overhear. This book is so well written that you really feel like you're in the room with them. and you're just like standing nearby and overhearing this stuff. It's great. I also really liked Lady Sasha's point that fear is the death of creativity. That's good for us because it means resistance. If we can get creative, we have a chance. Because fascism is mostly based on fear. They're not creative. It's not really a quote, but there was a moment that was a little too close to home. One of the characters mentions that the First Order will often use ridiculous excuses to just shoot people. And then it comes up with a way to blame the victim. Like, oh, well, yeah, I shot you in the head, but like, you were driving toward me. Where have we seen this recently? Where have we seen agents, shall we call them, shooting people in the head in broad daylight in the street and then making up the most ridiculous excuses why, even though it's on video? I don't know Ashley's politics, but at least within the Star Wars universe, very clear that fascists do stuff like that. This is a Star Wars channel. We're gonna talk about fascism. Eyes Like Stars may not be a world-shattering, amazing book like Legacy was, or like Bloodline, but wow, it is like a little gem. It's like a little pastry that is just so delightful, and it makes you feel happy. You know, have you ever had a chocolate-filled croissant that's still warm out of the oven and you bite into it and there's like melted chocolate and it's just so good? Croissant. Sometimes, when the world is dark and scary, that is what we need. As this book says, you can fight the empire with whimsy, with love, with building a home in spite of everything. So, whether you end up reading this book because you just like romance novels, or you're a huge Star Wars fan, either way, I think you'll enjoy it. May the stars keep you steady, and always come home. By the way, side note of that Santeca phrase, there is a redone version of that in this book. Wherever she was in the galaxy, she could always find her way home, which is, I guess, the Quay version of this. I love you, Quays, but I am still Team Santeca.